Hello, cool cats and kittens. This is your Commissioner Tim with the Week 4 Power Rankings. You gotta excuse my setup. I'm recording this back-to-back right after getting done with the Week 3 recaps. Trying to save some time tomorrow, so we're gonna flip through the Power Rankings. Let's go. Standings after Week 3. We've got 4 teams in the winning column, and we got 4 teams in the losing column, with Ben a perfect 3-0 and Half Chub winless to start this season. Looking at points for, there's certainly a grouping that is happening now that we sort of were able to get hints after week 2, last week's video, but certainly the cutoff right there at the 444 point mark after week 3. After that, everyone's below the threshold. So there's a big gap happening. And I would even put Chota, if you take out his week 1, he would be right there within that top sort of 5 and now 6 teams that will be making it with him in part of that grouping after the big trades that he made after week 1. So going into power rankings, I'm going to start with 8. No surprise, no changes here. 4 full Chub. Got to change the name. Now we're going Half Chub at 0-3 to start. Also one of the lowest scoring outputs. As I mentioned in the recap video, there's just a lot of gaps right now in John's roster, specifically at the receivers as well as the tight end spots. He has immense draft capital, so if I was doing this for Dynasty Power Rankings, John would certainly be much higher up than the last place in the league. But there's going to be a lot of hard work that needs to be done for John to figure out something if he's going to be able to move up through these ranks for the rest of the season. Over to 7. Painful. Bills Mafia. I said last week that I think 6th was going to be the lowest that Bills Mafia sits in for the rest of the season. But I do have to put Bills Mafia here, and you'll see with the movements that I'm putting in power rankings for this week. At sitting at 1 and 2, again, below that sort of that top 5, top 6 sort of point threshold, it's hard to move up Bills Mafia, especially after a loss. And then you got myself, trust the process as one of the higher scoring teams, but obviously with all the moves and the record, I think it's really hard for me to maintain that 5th position from the last week. And specifically due to the upward movement from Chota. So I've got the first riser of this week, and it's Chota, now at 5th. Sitting at 2 and 1. Obviously, he's below that cutoff threshold point for points for, but I think if you take out the week 1, he's certainly within that top caliber of players in terms of scoring output, and we will continue to see Chota probably making upward movement into these ranks through the rest of the season as well. Over to 5. We've got Cup to Canada falling from the top 2 place from last week's rankings. He is coming off of a loss, and really it's less about what his team's going through, because we picked all through it during the recap video, but it's also the upward movements and different movements that we'll see within the top 4. And I have to put Ben here as a top 3, starting 3-0 and also having this highest scoring output in week 3 for the entire league. It is no longer about the lucky breaks that he had in having weak opponents through his first 2 weeks like we saw, but he had considerable opponents in week 3, and he outscored everyone in week 3 with CMC being out. The only reason I was able to move Ben up a little bit higher for this week, especially after this stellar performance in week 3, is the injury due to CMC and the uncertainty around when he's exactly expected to be coming back. We've also got some movements in the top 2. I've got Ryan at 2 now, falling from the number 1 position. Nothing much. It's not necessarily about what Ryan's having done bad or what this next team has done well. I just think that with Ryan, even though he won in week 3, seeing that injury to Dalvin Cook and how close that matchup was, and seeing the lack of performance that he had from other players because of Dalvin Cook's injury, showed a little bit of a weakness in Ryan's roster, which is it's a little thin at the running back spots. And certainly that's going to be playing heavily when bye weeks start coming around. And that's a thread to be holding on to for Dalvin Cook, especially hoping that he stays healthy for the rest of the season. So that leaves us with the Washington Fantasy Football Team. I do have Adam as our season's currently #1 ranked manager and roster heading into week 4. I think I've mentioned in the recap video again, but his roster just looks stellar, and I'm excited to see what this team continues to do. And I am looking forward to seeing if Adam starts to make any moves now that he is in the contention window, and I think he's a high contender for the playoffs and the playoff burst, certainly. And I think his team is deep enough to carry through the bye weeks without any issues and hiccups, and looking forward to it. So that wraps up this quick video for the week 4 power rankings. Look forward to the video coming out tomorrow by Commissioner Brandon on his weekly picks. See you Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. Peace.